Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It's Thursday, so you know what that means. It's our Thursday 13. And today we're looking at the Cleveland Browns and their historically terrible quarterbacks and their where quarterbacks go to die, I think is a quote I'll be using here as the NFL draft just happened. So that's what Roger has drawn up for us today. He did a lot of research on this one. So we will be...
All 10 minutes.
Yeah, we'll be arguing in the comments, I'm sure, about the Cleveland Browns. Welcome to Before Coffee, the father and daughter comprehensive news of Planet Earth podcast, where we look up our stories 10 to 15 minutes before we started, and we have not had any caffeine. We just rolled out of bed. We are waking up as we read these stories, so we apologize if we can't speak or read, or, we get distracted and start yapping about something totally unrelated. Let's get into our headlines for today's show. Today on Before Coffee. Sanctions relief is on the way for Syria as the interim president hears during Macron's visit. And Ukraine considers moving closer to the euro rather than the dollar, Reuters reports.
And happy Thursday from the United States. Good morning, world. Where Pakistan says it shot down 25 drones as we escalate for possible war with India.
Mystery still surrounds the cause of the fire that sparked Heathrow shutdown and mass flight disruptions. And migrants expected to face tougher English standards and longer residency waits.
And the Cleveland Browns are one of the model franchises in the history of the NFL, but not in this century. This century, it's been quarterback purgatory.
Happy birthday, David Attenborough, who turns 99 today. We're going to look at a couple of celebrities who have been influenced by Attenborough's touch on this world.
Cool. And it's National Have a Coke Day. I'm not having a Coke today. I'm having coffee because that's the name of our show on May 8th, 2025 on Before Coffee.
Forgetting what day it is, forgetting what year it is. Where am I? What's going on?
It's 1925. Wait.
Yeah. 1920. Well, David Attenborough was just born. That's where we are. We've gone back in time.
We gotta do a retro Before Coffee one of these days in black and white. Just do it in black and white and just do retro stories from this day 100 years ago. Right? Like a newsreel.
Yeah, some people do that kind of stuff, like radio shows and stuff.
Speed it up in a newsreel and put little breaks in the film every once in a while, You just go.
We have to do the old-timey voice too. Fucking new! I can't do that accent. But you have to do the old-timey 20s voice.
Like newsreel guy. Boy, that's Gibby. And everything's got a humorous tilt to it. Boy, that Hitler's a funny guy. It's newsreels. People watch newsreels before the movie.
That's Hitler, guys. Up and coming on the German Chancellor. Let me know.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to be great for everyone.
You look at those old newsreels. They're always trying to find humor in everything. It's just...
Yeah, it's not that serious. It is very serious, but it's not that serious. All right,
well,
speaking of seriousness...
The Hindenburg crashed, but that's going to be good for air travel for airplanes.
All right, the first segue of today's show, a non sequitur. And we have two stories. So our first story is about sanctions relief for Syria. That's right, Syrian interim president Ahmed al-Shara is on the first state visit to Europe. He is a guest in France, where President Macron has promised him further easing of EU sanctions against Syria, which date back to a time when dictator Assad was still in power. This is on NOS. The visit is overshadowed by recent violence in the country. In addition, Israel continues to carry out bombardments on targets in Syria because, we got all these bombs, we gotta use them somewhere. Shara announced that the indirect talks are being held with Israel to prevent the situation from escalating further. Most countries, when their bombs are about to expire, they just blow them up in like a middle of nowhere, and then they throw away what's left over. Israel's like, these are about to expire, we better shoot someone with them.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only logic I can see. Why are they bombing Syria? I don't understand. Bullies.
Yeah.
If he continues on his path, we will do the same, the French president told the press about his conversation with Sarraj. Macron also promised that he will urge the US to also reduce sanctions. In addition, he will lobby in Washington not to withdraw American troops from Syria for the time being for the sake of stability in the country. Last week, there was heavy fighting in Syria between Druze militants and pro-government fighters, leaving almost 100 dead. In March, it's estimated that more than 1,000 people were killed. The victims were mainly civilians from the Alawite minority who were killed in revenge by Sunni militias. Yeah, religious bullshit.
Oh yeah.
I wish I was
the
just
same
small-minded
religion
enough.
too.
I must kill you because you believe in a very fractional different thing in our religion. You're small. It's not that important, guys. You don't need to kill each other.
My special Muhammad is better than your special Muhammad.
The Syrian interim president is trying to gain, and I feel the same way about Christianity too, right? Catholics and Protestants killing each other was dumb
same
too.
Thing, Northern Ireland, perfect example. You're not in the best special handshake club.
The Syrian interim president is trying to gain as much support as possible during his visit to Europe. He has spoken to Macron about the reconstruction of his country. Sarraj is under international pressure to fulfill his promises that he will be a leader for all population groups of the country. Because as soon as he starts persecuting people, he's just going to be another Assad, and then Europe and the rest of the world is just going to put sanctions back on again.
Yeah.
But there's a militia, HTS, which started as a splinter group of Al-Qaeda. Sarraj took power in Syria in December last year. He claims to have become moderate, but critics are not convinced. For example, leaders affiliated with Sarraj called for violence against Alawites in March, and that's exactly what happened. In addition to Alawites, Druze and Christians also fear persecution from the predominantly Sunni government. Since the fall of Assad, Israel has launched hundreds of airstrikes on Syria. The neighboring country has taken advantage of power vacuum to destroy naval vessels, fighter jets, and chemical weapons storage facilities and other military targets. Israel has occupied a larger part of southeastern Syria, claiming it is a military buffer zone. But I don't know. What's their argument, I guess, is if we destroy all of your military supplies, you can't become Assad 2.0. You would have to build them up again. I guess is their argument. I don't know. I'm sure they're also killing civilians, but that's not marked in this article right now because that would be bad.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about that. Killing civilians, that never happened. Yeah. One day they're going to have a war that's a spectator sport instead of this, we're just going to kill civilians and pretend it didn't happen shit. Oh yeah, that's just happens in war. So stop war then. Because other than it making a lot of assholes money, there's really no reason. I mean, you can hate each other without war, can't we?
Mm-hmm.
It's really actually kind of fun to hate people without war. You know, this is why we have the Olympics, by the way, for peace. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of that irony, right? Militaries are supposed to be very organized and disciplined, and then it's like, oh yeah, but we kill civilians. Okay, I guess you're not very organized or disciplined, are you?
Yeah, total non sequitur. A little over 100 years ago, at the beginning of the 20th century, we started the Olympics to get rid of war, right? And it's had the opposite effect, because at least in Europe, forget the American Civil War, but at least in Europe, the 19th century was one of the most peaceful centuries in history in Europe. And they shattered that. What caused it? I think it might have been the Olympics.
Obviously.
It had the opposite effect, because 1904 we started going
when we started banning Russians from the Olympics,
yeah.
That's when it all ended. The peace of the world.
That didn't happen until recently. Anyway.
All right, speaking of Russia, Ukraine is considering getting closer to the euro rather than the dollar. This is on the Kyiv Independent from Vladimir Ivanshin. Ukraine is considering moving away from the US dollar and closer to the euro as a benchmark for the hryvnia, Reuters reported on May 7th, citing National Bank Governor Andriy Kashinin. Threat of wide-range tariffs by US President convicted felon Donald Trump have shocked markets and drawn criticism worldwide. Meanwhile, Ukraine is moving closer to the EU as it undergoes ascension negotiations with the bloc, and that definitely makes it easier if they have the euro. The strengthening of the EU's role in ensuring our defense capabilities, greater volatility in global markets, and the probability of global trade fragmentation are all reasons Ukraine is considering the euro over the dollar, Pishny added. Some European countries that do not use the euro include Denmark, pegged their currencies to the euro using the European exchange rate mechanism as part of the EU's economic and monetary union. This work is complex and requires high-quality, versatile preparation, Pishny told Reuters. On April 9th, almost a month ago, Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal said Ukraine has fulfilled 81% of its commitments made under the association agreement with the European Union. That's pretty good. In 3 years? Once again, we are demonstrating that we are able to make our way to EU membership quickly and efficiently. This year, we aim to open all 6 clusters in the EU accession negotiations and deepen sectoral integration, he said. On April 1st, European officials announced the €16.7 million or $19 million Ukraine to EU program to support Ukraine's ascension to the EU. And how is that going? Well, it's going pretty well. So the money is working. And I think the reason why they're rushing into getting Ukraine in the EU is because they really, if they're able to get some sort of ceasefire with Russia, they want to instantly make Ukraine, part of the EU so that they can't get attacked again. And if they do get attacked again, then the EU can actually put boots on the ground to defend Ukraine. Which is why I think there are some people who don't want Ukraine to join the EU, because they know that they have a feeling Russia will attack them anyways, and then we'll be in a world war again, EU versus Russia. But for now, they're putting them on the speed track to get in any vain hope that there will be some sort of ceasefire, some sort of peace treaty that happens. Who knows? I'm cynical about that ever occurring, but that's my story. That one's way shorter than the other one. It's more of an update.
I think it's a race against time. I think it's Vladimir Putin's going to die someday. And
there's going to be a power vacuum. The war will stop, and then they can get them in the EU.
And his thing is he wants to create not the Soviet Empire. He wants the Russian, like the old empire back from the 1800s. He wants that, right? He wants Catherine the Great or whatever. That's what he wants, and he wants it.
He will never be Catherine the Great
because he ain't gonna live much longer. So he's gonna be Vlad the fair to middling. That's what he's gonna be. And anyway, he wants that before he dies, right? Because he knows he wants to also pick his own successor, right? Which is really hard to do because the guy's probably going to turn on you as soon as you die, right?
Yeah, for sure.
There's my non sequitur. All right, spin the wheel.
Time to roll my segue.
I'm still organizing my list in chronological order because I think it makes more sense to present it that way.
It's time for a bad pun from me.
Bad puns about Pakistan and India. This is from Reuters.com. Nope, here we go with our first mispronunciations of the day. I got to pronounce 3 different names. It's written by Mubashir Bukhari, Anvi Mehta, and Surbhai Misra. Those are your authors of this article.
Ooh.
Okay. All right, Pakistan said on Thursday it shot down 25 drones from India in its airspace, while India said it neutralized Pakistan's attempts to strike military targets with drones and missiles as fighting spread between the nuclear-armed neighbors. Well, there's your 2/3 of your... If you had a alliteration headline, there's 2/3 of it. Nuclear-armed neighbors.
I've already found a terrible pun, and I'm gonna do it because I think it's funny, but it's a dark one.
Okay. The latest exchanges come a day after India said it hit terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan in the early hours of Wednesday, 2 weeks after it accused the Islamic Nation of involvement in an attack in Indian Kashmir, which we talked about. They've been fighting over Kashmir forever.
Since you've been alive. Yeah, since you've been alive.
Since I've been alive. An attack in Indian Kashmir in which 26 people, mostly Hindu tourists, were killed. Oh yeah, get rid of them tourists! Hey, how was your vacation in Kashmir? Well, it was great until that bomb fell on our tent. Reuters Tariff Watch newsletter. Oh, yeah, that's a freaking ad for them. Islamabad had, which is the capital of Pakistan, by the way, has denied the accusation and vowed to retaliate to the missile strikes, which also saying it shot down 5 Indian aircraft. The Indian embassy in Beijing termed reports of fighter jets being shot down as misinformation. Pakistan shot down 25 Israeli-made drones. Israeli-made drones. Way to go, Israel. You're starting a war somewhere else. You're making money up, profiteering off some other people's misery. Way to go, Israel. You learned a good lesson for the United States. You don't have to fight a war. We can profit off other people's wars. Anyway, back to the story. Pakistan shot down 25 Israeli-made drones from India at multiple locations, including the 2 largest cities in Karachi and Lahore, and their debris is being collected. Pakistani military spokesman Ahmed Sharif Chandre said. Great name, anyway. One drone was also shot down over the garrison city of Rawalpindi, home of the Pakistan's Army's heavily fortified headquarters, he said. One drone hit a military target near Lahore, and 4 personnel of the Pakistan Army were injured in this attack, Chaudhry said. Indian drones continue to be sent into Pakistan airspace. Will continue to pay dearly for this naked aggression, he said. The Indian Defense Ministry said Pakistan attempted to engage a number of military targets in northern and western India on Wednesday night and early Thursday, and they were neutralized. With an S, not a Z, so you know this is written by by Indian Air Defense. You know, somebody was educated in English, British English, because we put a Z in neutralized. Anyway, I'm always on the guard for strange little quirks in English. In response, Indian forces targeted air defense radar systems at the number of locations in Pakistan on Thursday. It said in a statement, adding that Indian response has been in the same domain with the same intensity as Pakistan. Pakistan also increased its intensity of its firing across the ceasefire line, the de facto border in Kashmir, and 16 people, including 5 children and 3 women, were killed in the Indian side, the statement said. Oh, well, yeah, you really showed them. Oh, we killed some tourists. We killed some children. You sick bastards. The relationship between India and Pakistan has been fraught with tension since they gained independence from colonial Britain in 1947. And the countries have fought 3 wars, 2 of them over Kashmir and clashed countless times. Both acquired nuclear weapons in the 1990s. Yeah, okay. Way to go. You can mutually assured destruction. So why go to war? You already got mutually assured destruction. Trading was halted on Pakistan's benchmark share index after the index slumped 6.3% on news of the drone attacks. Indian equities, rupee, and bonds fell sharply late afternoon trading after the Indian Defense Ministry statement. See that? War is bad for your economy. Your money becomes worth less. Pakistan says at least 31 of its civilians were killed and about 50 wounded on Wednesday's strikes and in cross-border shelling across the frontier Kashmir that followed. While India says 13 civilians died and 59 were wounded. No politicians killed in this, unfortunately. They were left completely unharmed. On Thursday, Indian government minister... Yeah. No generals killed either. On Thursday, Indian government ministers told a meeting of political parties in New Delhi that the strikes on Pakistan had killed over 100 terrorists. Oh yeah, if you die in a bombing, you're a terrorist. That's my favorite one.
All right.
Oh, we killed some terrorists. We killed 72 freaking children. Oh yeah, but we got that one terrorist. We couldn't wait for him to leave his human shield building. We have no patience for that. We had to kill some children. Sorry. Man, war's just fucking stupid. In the Kashmir Valley, the cable car in Gulmarg, a major tourist attraction, was shut down to its proximity to the border of Pakistan. Oh. A hotel manager there did not want to be named, said police had ordered the hotel vacated on Wednesday night. Well, I'm gonna stay in a hotel that might get bombed. Yeah, that'll be exciting. Blackout drills were conducted in India's border regions on Wednesday night. Local media reported panic buying in some cities on the Indian side of Punjab, which shares a border with Pakistan, as people hoarded essentials fearing a Pakistani retaliation to the Indian strikes. Pakistan's aviation authority temporarily suspended flight operations at airports in Lahore, Karachi, and the northeastern city of Sialkot until noon which is 7 Greenwich Mean Time. It did not give a reason for the suspension, although Pakistan's federal government has pledged to respond to India's strikes. Defense Ministry Khwaja Mohammad Asif told the New York Times on Wednesday that Pakistan was ready to de-escalate. Well, good for you. Indian Foreign Minister Sabra Hamayam Jaishankar, love these names, said New Delhi did not intend to escalate the situation. However, if there are military attacks on us, there should be no doubt that it will be met with very, very firm response at the India-Iran Joint Commission meeting. The India-Iran Joint Commission meeting. India-Iran. Think about that. India-Iran. Going, hey, we're together. We're pals. Good luck with that, India. Anyway, with India saying it would respond if Pakistan responds, global powers have urged a calming of tensions. Stinky the Clown said on Wednesday he hoped the countries could work it out. Who gives a shit what he says? China urged both countries to act the larger interest of peace and stability. The Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson saying that Beijing was ready to work with the international community to avoid actions that further complicate the situation. Russia and the U.S. have also urged restraint. The U.S. have urged restraint? Who in the U.S. has urged restraint? Right? The people that don't know anything? Trump? Okay, let's listen to Trump, everybody. That's never gone wrong. Anyway, the current escalation comes at the precarious time for Pakistan's $350 billion economy, which is still recovering from an economic crisis that brought it to the brink of defaulting on external debt obligations in 2023. We remember that. Before it secured funding from the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. Anyway, there is your horrible news. 2 more countries that don't like each other, and it's all because of religion, of course. What are you doing? Practicing no wrong, invisible man. That invisible man don't exist. Our invisible man's better than your invisible man. Look at him. Look at the picture I drew of my invisible man.
And he wants us to do this. It's not my fault. Those civilians died because God told me to.
You can't draw a picture of our invisible man. We'll go to war. Yeah. Religion sucks. That's never changed. That's been true my entire life. Once I first had realization about religion, I have been questioning it ever since. It's like, what is wrong with you people? Anyway, there's your story.
And here's my bad pun, and this one's not just bad, it's terrible. But it made me laugh. Because we gotta laugh about something. An American mistakes a Hindu from India as a Muslim from Pakistan. Indian guy goes, "Excuse me, sir. You seem to have mistaken me for a Muslim from Pakistan. I belong to 7-Eleven, not to 9/11.
Oh.
Here's your bad pun. Since we're talking about terrorists, you know, obviously all the people from Pakistan are terrorists, and all the people from India are your local corner store vendor, and that's how simplified we've made it.
Yeah, haters are always making that mistake. Haters hate, right? They don't necessarily have to have facts to hate. It's like the idiot who shot up the Sikhs in Milwaukee a few years ago, about 10 years ago. The guy in Wisconsin shot up a bunch of Indians, Sikhs, right? He thought they were Muslims. So, idiot. Just a complete idiot. Not that Muslims deserve to die, but yeah, people that are uneducated don't give a fuck. They just think, oh, you're religious and you're stupid. That's about all they think.
Most stupid people just see what you look like and decide you should die. So, you know.
Right. You're not like me. You can't possibly have feelings like me. You're an alien being to me. You're subhuman, as they. I
have a friend who looks Asian, has brown skin, and has a dark beard. People think he's Turkish. Yeah. He's not Turkish. He's Indonesian. He's more Dutch than Indonesian. Really... He's more European than Indonesian, really. And it's like, oh, you're from Turkey. No, never been there. Don't know anything about stuff.
People make fun of sports fans. Like, oh, you really care about, like, the Cleveland Browns. You really care about the Cleveland Browns. They'll never do anything for you. But how's that different from religion, right? You sit there and pretend there's an invisible man that gives a shit about you. You sit around and pretend all day. You build a building for them. You spend actual you give them tax relief. They don't even pay taxes if they believe in an invisible man and build a building for them. How is that
I've decided I'm making a new religion, and I'm not going to pay taxes anymore.
The last time the Yankees fans started a war, right? Never happened, right? They're not
Maybe
going
in
to
the
war
streets.
with the Red Sox.
Maybe
and
they
Yankees,
start a
right?
battle in the streets. Perhaps that's the most
But
sports
soccer
people
riots,
do.
soccer riots are the,
Yeah.
the closest you get to war. The closest you get to war. That's why sports exists, by the way, so we don't have to go to war. We did this on the Olympic thing. Anyway, that's my non sequitur. My long non sequitur. Anyway, on to spin the wheel for what I gotta say to
spin
your
the wheel.
non sequitur in my own story. Right?
All right, we're going to my next two stories here with a mixed metaphor.
What? Oh, a mixed metaphor.
metaphor.
Right. I don't have to write anything. That's easy. It's always easier when I have to write something down. I think of it and write it down, and that's it. It's the only process, right? All right.
All right, so let's do a little update here from the Heathrow fire. I think that was a month ago. Sorry, March 21st. And we watched a little live stream of them taking the fire out, but we still don't know what caused it. This is from Neil Lansfield on The Independent. The cause of a substation fire that sparked massive delays at Heathrow Airport is unknown, according to an interim report. The National Energy System Operator, NESO, investigation revealed that power was restored to all 4 passenger terminals by 10:56 a.m. on March 21st, yet flights didn't restart until approximately 6 p.m. that evening. While electricity flowed back to the main airport network by 2:23 p.m., a subsequent period focused on safety checks ensured critical systems were fully operational before passengers were allowed to return. More than 270,000 air passenger journeys were disrupted at Heathrow as Europe's biggest airport and had no choice but to close for 16 hours. The fire at the North Hyde substation, which supplies electricity to Heathrow for about 1.5 miles away, started the late previous evening on March 20th. The cause of the fire remains unknown. The Metropolitan Police previously confirmed the officers had found no evidence to suggest the incident was suspicious in nature. Heathrow Airport said the report raises important questions for the National Grid, which owns the substation, and Scottish and Southern Electricity Networks, SSEN, which is responsible for power distribution in the area. Do they not have any logs saying, oh man, we sent way too much power to Heathrow substation and it blew up? Like, they don't have any logs of that?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, I fucked up, let me delete these logs, and now they're covering it up for themselves. I don't want to get fired.
Probably.
The spokesperson said Heathrow welcomes that NESO review initial reports, which raised important questions for National Grid and SSEN that we hope the final report will provide answers to, including the cause of the fire, further clarity on how the fire started and why 2 transformers were subsequently impacted, can help ensure greater resilience for the UK's energy grid moving forward. Or maybe they're starting to use AI. Ooh, wouldn't that be a juicy story? They fired all the humans, put AI on it, and the AI fucked it up. Oh, that would another reason to hide it, right? Oh, we don't want to tell anybody humans are better than AI.
Right.
Energy Secretary L. Miliband, who commissioned the report, said, "My department took immediate action to investigate the power loss, which impacted Heathrow and the surrounding area, causing major disruptions to thousands of people and many businesses. The National Energy System Operator initial summary of the incident rules out the possibility of any suspicious activity." Yet it's still suspicious. The whole thing is still quite suspicious. We now await the full report to understand what happened and learn lessons to strengthen UK energy resilience, protect our critical national infrastructure. NESO stated that the final report will be published in June, so I guess I'll remember to keep my eye out for the story to finally solve this mystery. The body is expected to make key findings and recommendations on 3 core areas: the resilience of existing energy infrastructure, response and restoration process following disruptions, and the broader resilience of critical national infrastructure to energy-related issues. I mean, I think their response was pretty quick, right? 6 hours? Because it's an airport, they were being very cautious of letting people in. Even though it was only 6 hours down, they're like, we're just gonna delay the whole thing for 16 hours because we're an airport. So that really had nothing to do with, but maybe they would want the response to be higher. I feel like an electric fire is pretty risky. So, I don't know. Any mixed metaphors for that?
Mixed metaphors? Well, yeah, energy is like you create energy, but necessarily if you don't have a storage unit, it's like a bucket that you just keep overfilling, right? So when you're overfilling that bucket, right, you're generating more power, but the extra power just goes away. So you have to find a way to store that extra power. So it's like a bucket that's overflowing constantly, but it won't it won't help you get any more light, if that helps with your mixed metaphor.
Okay.
Mixed metaphors are supposed to be confusing.
Overfilled, but the light isn't there.
The lights, yeah, even though all the power is there, the lights still didn't come on because you overfilled it didn't have to do with the excess spillage of the water.
In more news from the UK, they're putting more restrictions on migrants because they really don't like people from other places they're English people. I don't know. Sometimes stereotypes are true. English people want to invade everyone, but they don't want anyone to come in. This is from David Lynch from The Independent.
Snobs? The British are snobs, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, huge classist snobs. The most interesting thing about English culture is their classism is very, very strongly interwoven in there. So
maybe
they see anybody who can't afford to stay in their country where it's going to shit as peasants who don't deserve to even come in the country, basically. Migrants have had to learn a higher standard of English to work in the UK and wait longer before they can settle permanently, reports have suggested. An immigrant white paper due to be published next week is expected to set out the reforms as Sir Keir Starmer gets tougher on migration in the wake of the Labour's local election losses to reform the UK. Among the strict new measures under consideration is raising English language proficiency required by migrants applying for a UK work visa, according to the Times. They would in future be required to have the equivalent of a foreign language A-level standard of English rather than a GCSE standard currently required, the newspaper said. For anybody who doesn't know about the British education system, A-level is like almost college level, right? You have to have an almost college level of English, whereas GCSE is more like, you graduate high school, you understand where the verbs and the adjectives are supposed to go. Good enough. Elsewhere, the Financial Times reported that migrants were required to wait as long as 10 years, relatable, before they can apply for indefinite leave to remain in the UK. That's what I'm currently doing. I have to wait. I've been waiting 9 years almost to be able to stay in the Netherlands. And I don't speak perfect Dutch. I definitely don't speak college level Dutch. Most migrants who come to Britain one-time limited work visas can currently make an application for indefinite leave to remain after 5 years. This paves the way for them to apply for benefits and the path towards UK citizenship. The wait could be extended to 10 years if migrants have spent too much time outside the UK since arriving, or if there are questions about their financial status, the FT said. Similar plans to extend the waiting period for indefinite leave to remain were set out by the Conservatives on Tuesday. Both the Tories' deportation bill and the Labour's plans to toughen its migration response come as both parties aim to win back voters from Nigel Farage's UK. The party, which has positioned itself as a tough on migration, won hundreds of local council seats and wrested control of Runcorn and Helsby parliamentary constituency from Labour on May 1st. But of course, there's always going to be places in your country that don't like migrants because of populism or misinformation, disinformation, right? The migrants are why your life sucks. No, it's actually because the government has been under Tory rule for 10 years and they don't care about anyone but London. Anyone who lives not in London can tell you this, okay? I lived in Wales for 2 months and that's all I heard the whole time. Yeah, well, it sucks here because only London cares about themselves and they don't care about Wales. Wales has its own council, but they don't have as much power as London has, right, to direct certain things and change certain things. There's a lot of constituencies on the east coast of the UK who suffer from, regulations on fishing and all sorts of loss of jobs, and they just want to blame the migrants for that.
Yeah.
When, it's not the migrants' fault.
Yep. We just gonna blame the people that are, we can make them into a monolith. They can't defend themselves because they're a cartoonish character in everyone's mind, and we blame them. Who can defend themselves? You're a straw man.
I mean, also, there's an
let's
argument
do
here that
strong.
people who are going to the UK don't know English, right? That's what it sounds like. They're making the argument that there's a ton of migrants that are coming here and don't know the language. But I bet you that's not the case. This is probably not even going to affect anybody at all. Maybe a small minority of the migrants who are coming in, right? Your English isn't good enough. And of course, you can always just stay there. That's the worrying part about this, is that you can just say, no, we've decided your English is not A-level English.
That's why.
I passed the test. I got 100. Yeah, well, we're gonna say you're failed. I mean, you know what? They take the test in. They can lie. They can lie and say you failed the test. That's all I'm saying. Not saying they're doing that, but they can.
Rights are not permanent. They're just something the government gives to you that they can take away. So let's just not confuse rights with things that are real.
Well, that's the end.
Right? They're not actually.
Is that your mixed metaphor?
Okay, so again, the metaphor is the straw man, right? Immigrants are the straw man that can just get blown over by the slightest wind. So it's easy to attack a straw man. It's like, look at that guy. I don't believe he even exists. How does he even exist? I can't believe he's been embarrassed to even exist. I mean, that's their actual mentality. These people think that you shouldn't exist just because you want to live in a better country than the one you live in. You know? It's like, America.
Remember, we didn't choose where we were born. We have no control over that.
Americans can go anytime we want. And then America.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's many countries that want immigration. And the only ones that don't want immigrations are the ones that benefit the most from it, which is just amazing to me, right? It's amazing that British was declining population, American was declining birth rates. Japan with its declining birth rates. China with its declining birth rates. Don't want more immigration so you can fill those jobs. Dude, you're not replacing them with young people. You need immigration.
I mean, the problem specifically I have with, for example, Japan, right, is they are trying to be a hegemony. They're trying to be that, which is bad, and makes me sad, because the kind of beauty of humans on this planet is that we can synergize our cultures together and create something new. And there's a lot of people in Japan who don't want that, which is why they have very harsh immigration restrictions, and that's why they have a failing economy and a failing workers population, because but those foreigners will come in and change everything and cause crimes.
I'm 102.
You know,
I'm 102 and I can't retire, even though retirement in Japan is pretty cushy. I can't retire because nobody can take my job, and it's not an honorable thing to do to retire with nobody take your job. You're just stuck in a bad place. We're off on a tangent there, but
yeah. And there are plenty of people you can find on Japan on the internet or whatever that will say, you know, a Japanese person wouldn't do this crime, but you know, you can find Japanese people doing crimes too.
Nonsense.
Yeah, it's just more straw manning.
Let's go back. Let's talk about the rape of Nanking if you want to talk about that. Anyway, 1 million people died there, by the way, at the hands of the Japanese invading China.
Yeah.
Anyway, off onto less warlike things and onto sports. I guess you got to spin the wheel though.
It's another bad pun.
Bad pun.
There'll be plenty in here, since we're talking about how bad Cleveland is.
We're going to talk about NFL national. You can change channel, but I find this interesting anyway. It's like sports teams in they're like little mini countries, right? You wear the colors, you got the flag, right? You got the fans behind you. People, at least in Europe, will go to war over their team. And Cleveland is one of those cities that just gets pissed on a lot. I mean, they called their stadium the Mistake by the Lake, right? Big municipal stadium that they use for both baseball and football. So it had that, you know, when you're playing football, it's got that dirt infield in the football field that you got to run across. So when it rains, it's all mud and you can read the people's uniforms because they're just And of course, the Cleveland Browns history, they started out well. They started out in the 1950s. They weren't part of the NFL. They were part of an upstart league called the American Association or something like that. When they joined the NFL, they were in a championship every single year, 10 years in a row, and I think won 7 of them, right? So they were a really good franchise when they first joined the NFL. And Otto Graham was their quarterback, one of the best of all time. And that was about the end of their success. They had Jim Brown. They drafted Jim Brown, probably the best running back of all time. And in the 60s, they won a championship, and that's been it. That's been it for Cleveland. Cleveland has not gone to the Super Bowl ever, right? Mm-hmm. And they've been to a couple of AFC championships, never been to a Super Bowl. In 1994, the original Cleveland Browns made the playoffs. Their coach was Bill Belichick, right? You might have heard of him. He won 6 Super Bowls with the New England Patriots after the Cleveland Browns fired him. And after they fired him in 1995, after their first playoff win in years, in 1994, they fired him in 1995 and moved to Baltimore, where they became the Baltimore Ravens. So Cleveland had no team from 95 through 99 until the NFL decided to give them a team again. So Cleveland got a team, and they called it the Browns because the Ravens didn't take the name with them. They were the Ravens. So this is the history of futility of the Cleveland Browns franchise trying to find a quarterback this century, basically since 1999. So we're going to start off with number 1, the first quarterback they drafted. They got the first pick in the draft. They get the college draft where they can pick the best available players, any player they want on the board, any player in college they can pick. Number 1, they picked Tim Couch of Kentucky with their first overall pick in 1999. Yeah, Tim Couch. He was not a coach, he was an actual person. He played at University of Kentucky, actually a multi-sport, multi-talented player. Of course, you get drafted to the worst team that's just starting out, you're not going to be that good. But actually, Tim Couch was actually not terrible, and they did make the playoffs in 2002. And like their 4th year of existence, they made the playoffs, lost in the first round. But Tim Couch didn't last, right? He was bad. He was not a terrible quarterback, but he didn't last. And so the cycle started. The first quarterback to hit the cycle was Trent Dilfer, former Super Bowl champion. Ironically, won the Super Bowl with the Baltimore Ravens, who used to be the Cleveland Browns. This is the futility part of this. Okay, let's go back to the old Cleveland Browns and get a quarterback, basically, is what they're saying. And Trent Dilfer didn't have any success. He started 11 games in 2005, and Cleveland continued to suck. This is where they started actually experimenting with free agents, and our next quarterback on this list was not a first round. By the way, all of these quarterbacks on this list were drafted either in the first round of the NFL draft or the high in the second round, which is still a very premium draft position, especially if you're a bad team and you're picking low in the lower numbers. So Trent Dilfer didn't work out. They got this guy named Derek Anderson, who was basically a free agent. And the reason I bring him up is he's a rather successful quarterback and actually led them to quite a few victories. He started 34 games. And the reason I'm bringing up Derek Anderson, because I saw him the other day. He was their quarterback from 2006 to 2008. I saw him the other day at a golf course. Not playing golf, he's a caddy. He's a professional caddy now. I thought that was amazing. Anyway. Number 4 on our list is Brady Quinn. Brady Quinn famously was a Notre Dame quarterback. The Cleveland Browns drafted him in the first round of 2007. That's right. They're back to picking quarterbacks in the first round in 2007. It took them 8 years this time, so they did experiment a little bit. Brady Quinn, famous for sitting in the green room where you're waiting to get drafted. Sitting there until the end of the first round when he thought he was going to go in the top 5. So, of course, the draft is live, and they point the camera at the draft picks that show up for the draft. And Brady Quinn was in the green room, and through the first, 10 or 15 picks, there was this blonde sitting next to him. So this blonde next to him, he's having a good time. Yeah, we got drafted today. By the end of the second round, midway through the second round, she gone. She left. She left old Brady. Brady had no blonde next to him the rest of the time. And then he got drafted to the Browns, where his career went straight into the shitter. So, back in 2012, we're back in the first round again, where the Our number 5 quarterback shows up. His name is Brandon Weeden. Brandon Weeden played for Oklahoma State Cowboys. He was a very successful college quarterback, but unfortunately for the Cleveland Browns, he was a little old. Not old to play in the NFL, just old for a quarterback just entering the NFL. He was 28. It's like most college graduates about 21, 22, 23. He was 28. Yeah, so he had a baseball career before he went back to college. So Brandon Weeden, of course, didn't work out. And so in 2013, they were starting Jason Campbell, another first-round pick, formerly the Washington Redskins. He was drafted in the first round of 2005. He started 8 games for Cleveland. He's our number 6 quarterback in a parade of first-round picks that didn't solve their problems. So that didn't solve their problems in 2013. They went back to the draft, and they drafted probably the worst draft pick in the history of the NFL, Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel actually won the Heisman Trophy in college at Texas A&M, but he's one of these guys that didn't want to study the playbook, didn't want to learn how to read defenses. Basically, when the play broke down, he ran around and made a play. That was his entire deal. I could do that. If I had the skill and the athletic ability, I could do what Johnny Manziel did. Not study the playbook, not learn defenses, not learn how to read defenses, and just run around like a crazy man until somebody got open. That's what he did. That's what he did in college.
Really?
It worked for him. Didn't work in the pros. Johnny Manziel should have never been drafted. He was a terrible quarterback, and he had a shitty attitude. He actually got sued by an ex-girlfriend for punching her in the face and screwing up her eyes. So Johnny Manziel was a total piece of shit. They called him Johnny Football. Dude couldn't even make the Canadian Football League. Like after the NFL booted him, he's like, he didn't even like football. And his parents were rich. That's another thing he had against him. Rich people don't give a shit. They're not going to try as hard. That's just the way it is. So yeah, Johnny Manziel, number 7 on the list, total wipeout, total washout, out of football, admits he never cared about football. He should give back every dime anybody ever paid him to play football. Number 8 on the list is RG3, Robert Griffin III. They went back to the Redskins for their failed former number 1 pick. Actually, Robert Griffin was not a failure. He was actually Rookie of the Year his first year with the Redskins in 2012. But by 2016, he was out of work because of his knees. Because when you're a running quarterback and your knees go bad, that's about 80% of your weapons. So you can't run around. You got to learn offenses. You got to learn how to read defenses. You got to learn to not look at your receiver when you're throwing it to him, because that gives the defense away, that kind of shit. Robert Griffin never learned that. So even though he was a first-round pick and Rookie of the Year, when he got to Cleveland, he was a complete waste of time. He started 5 games, and he was terrible. So, in 2017, in the second round, they drafted Deshaun Kaiser. Deshaun Kaiser, not really that experienced. Another Notre Dame quarterback. But Deshaun Kaiser was thrown right into the action, basically should have never been drafted in the second round. Probably was about a 5th round quarterback that needed to sit and learn. He had the talent, he had the skill, but they threw him to the wolves. They threw him right out there, and he failed miserably in 2017. So in 2017, I believe the Cleveland Browns went 0-16. They played 16 games and lost all of them. So in 2017, in 2018, they got the first round pick, the very first pick in the draft again, because if you're the worst team, you get the first pick in the college draft, and they chose Baker Mayfield, which Baker Mayfield, another Heisman Trophy winner. In fact, Baker Mayfield has been the most successful quarterback in the history of the new Cleveland Browns. More successful. Why? Because he won a playoff game. He went to the playoffs, and they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. They hated Pittsburgh Steelers in the playoff. And what was Baker Mayfield's reward for being the most successful quarterback in Cleveland Browns history? They got rid of him. That's right. They said, hey, we want Deshaun Watson. That's right. They went and get somebody else's quarterback in 2022. They went and traded for one of the worst people in the world, Deshaun Watson, who was not actually playing football for the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans just said, don't bother coming to work. We're going to trade you. And they did this. He did not come to work for like a year. And the reason he was not coming to work is because he was being sued by a bunch of massage therapists for molesting them. Yeah! Sexually inappropriate touching. Deshaun Watson was being sued by around 30 women, massage therapists, for being a creep. Yeah. So Houston said, we don't want this creep on our team anymore.
Fair enough.
So not only did Cleveland trade for him, not only did Cleveland trade for him, they gave him the biggest guaranteed contract in the history of NFL. That's right. They ignored the fact that he's a creep and they might go to prison and he's probably going to give half of his salary to all these women that are suing him. They ignored all that and gave him, again, I don't know how to emphasize this. Tom Brady didn't get the biggest guaranteed contract in the history of NFL. Aaron Rodgers didn't get the biggest guaranteed contract in the history of the NFL. Pat Mahomes. I mean, these are guys with Super Bowls, right? Deshaun Watson, with no accomplishments, with just a high passer rating, got the most guaranteed money in the history of the NFL, in spite of the fact that he's a creep. And he's been terrible for Cleveland ever since. And he's currently out with a torn Achilles tendon. So his career might be over. And they're still paying him, by the way. They can't cut him. If they cut him, all that money gets on their salary cap all at once. They're stuck with him. They're stuck with him the rest of the career, and nobody will trade for him. Not for that contract. So, yeah, one of the worst decisions. Again, we covered this a little while ago. The worst owners in sports, he was on the list. Jimmy Haslam. The worst owners in sports, and this is 100% almost the entire reason. This trade that he authorized. And don't forget, he's the one that drafted Johnny Manziel, too. So, the worst owner in football, responsible for the worst decisions in football. He's number 11. Number 12 is Jameis Winston, another Heisman Trophy winner that they tried out last year, 2024, because Deshaun Watson was done. They rushed Jameis Winston into action, and he actually did all right. He wasn't terrible. But again, another first-round draft pick from another team this time, Tampa. By the way, Tampa ended up with Baker Mayfield. And Baker Mayfield is kicking ass for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers currently. Took them to the playoffs last year. He's won their division last 2 years. Last year he threw 41 touchdown passes, his best season. Cleveland should have never gotten rid of Baker Mayfield. And number 13 on our list is one of their current quarterbacks is Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco, another Super Bowl winner. Won the Super Bowl for, again, no surprise, the Baltimore Ravens, who used to be the Cleveland Browns, part of their futility. We got to get a Baltimore Ravens quarterback to rescue our franchise. Joe Flacco came in last 2023. They signed Joe Flacco, and he took them to the playoffs after Deshaun Watson got injured that year. Took them to the playoffs. They were a playoff team in 2023, so naturally they just let Joe Flacco walk. But he's back in the team this year. And their current crop of quarterbacks includes Joe Flacco, first-round draft pick of the Baltimore Ravens, former first-round pick in 2013, I think it was. Might have been earlier than that. Anyway, Joe Flacco was first-round pick. Their other quarterbacks are Kenny Pickett, who was a first-round pick of the Pittsburgh Steelers a few years ago. And their third quarterback before the draft this year was a guy. Let's see, who the Cleveland quarterback? We got to figure this out. I even forgot what their 5 quarterbacks are. Anyway, I have to look this up. It usually gives you an answer right away. Oh, okay. Deshaun Watson. I forgot him. He's still in the team. So the third quarterback is Deshaun Watson. It's easy to forget him because he never plays, right? He's making a lot of money and never plays. And in the draft, the most controversial thing in the NFL draft this couple of weeks ago was Deion Sanders' son, Shadur Sanders, who was supposed to be drafted in the first round according to all the TV experts, because he was Deion Sanders' son and he was in the big name and all this crap. But the actual teams in the NFL didn't think he was that great. He ended up going in the 5th round to the Cleveland Browns. That's right. They decided that, we got all these quarterbacks. we're going to draft the guy who's got the most controversial thing and just totally screw up our team with a guy that's going to be drafted in the 5th round and thinks he should be starting. So that would be fun. And of course, Cleveland screwed the draft up royally because they had already drafted a quarterback. Yeah, they drafted a quarterback in the 3rd round too. So they drafted Dylan Gabriel, who is probably a better quarterback as far as reading defenses and whatnot. Shedeur Sanders is more of a guy who makes things up too, which you can see it on the film. He's almost never on the play they called. And I guess they can blame the pass rush, but he won't stand in the pocket. So he's not a great quarterback. But either way, Cleveland has screwed up their quarterback situation again this year. They say it's competition. I say if you've got 5 quarterbacks, you've got no quarterbacks. So there's your, unfortunately, too long list, self-indulgent as it was, about the Cleveland Browns and their quarterback futility. Sorry for the length.
No, it's good. You obviously care very passionately about the shittiness of the Cleveland Browns.
I don't care at all. I'm a savant for this stuff. I'm just a savant. Don't act like I care. I don't. All right.
Well, I have a great joke or bad pun for you. What's the difference between the Cleveland Browns and a bra? A bra has 2 cups.
I was going to make a joke about boobs, I guess. I forgot to do it. Anyway, that's pretty good. They have 2 cups. Right. All right.
There you go. That was the wrong scene. Let's roll our segue for the culture segment.
What is it?
It's hypothetical about David Attenborough. All right, this is gonna be a short article. It's not because we weren't gonna read the 99 celebrities things. David Attenborough turned 99, and The Guardian is celebrating that by collecting 99 wishes from famous people. But we're only gonna read a couple of them from Helix, from Hungary, Nilius Gergely.
Do we have a video yet?
I don't have a video, no.
Okay, I'll find a David Attenborough one, I guess.
The British TV naturalist was greeted by a multitude of politicians, artists, actors, and scientists, some who saw Attenborough's first films as adults, and some who were born in another century. I know from David's shows that everything in our ecosystem is connected to everything else. And so if one country does the right thing and others don't, we can't solve the problems. Oh, sorry. I need to read this properly. I know from David's shows that everything in our ecosystem is connected to everything else. And so, if one country does the right thing and others don't, we can't solve the problems. Said the 44th President of the United States, Barack Obama, who hopefully realized as a child, not just as president, that nature doesn't know political borders, and that global action is inevitable. It is not known what convicted felon Trump, who supports the expansion of oil production, can gain from Attenborough. The current president of the United States is not among those sending well wishes. Of course, Obama saw plenty of Attenborough's film as a child. After all, the naturalist had been on screen for decades when the Democratic president born in 1961 was a child. Incidentally, Attenborough was also the BBC's director of programming at the time, but these 20 years were just a short episode of his long life. And of course, even then, a lot of people watched his shows. In her opening remarks, author Margaret Atwood recalled that she herself lived in Edinburgh when Attenborough's first documentaries were released, and that at the time, when one of the episodes was shown on TV in the evenings, the streets of the Scottish capital would empty out. Her deep love and knowledge of our planet and its wildlife inspires a childlike curiosity in all of us. He is a living treasure, said Billie Eilish, a 2-time Oscar-winning, 9-time Grammy-winning American singer-songwriter who was born in a different millennium than Attenborough. I think a lot of us, I guess I was born in the same millennium. I wouldn't say we have anything in common, though. 96 and 26.
You remember Richard? You probably remember Richard Attenborough, too. I mean...
Yeah, maybe.
Did the same thing. Narrated documentaries.
Oh.
What's wrong?
The singer and Obama's well wishes were joined by Jane Fonda, who was introduced to Attenborough early's work as an adult. As the two-time Oscar-winning American actress and civil rights activist is only 12 years younger than the naturalist. According to Fonda, she herself understood the complexity of nature's ecosystem through watching Attenborough's films. Jane Goodall certainly knew this without Attenborough, but the British anthropologist and ethologist who travels the world herself, the Jane Goodall Institute has been operating in Hungary since 2006, primarily highlighted Attenborough's global education activities, which has provided through his films and for generations. He has done more than anyone else to introduce people to the magic of nature, and thanks to this, more and more people are working to protect the environment. That's just the three people's words on David Attenborough, who has 99, if you want to, you can search it up. Happy birthday, David Attenborough. 99 people who give a shit, like, oh, we already said. There's so many people. People I don't even know in this list of people. Of course, we got Billy.
Right.
Like, Morgan Freeman spent hours captivated by his storytelling, reminding of the beauty and fragility of the world they shared. David Attenborough is one of the favorite narrators, bringing the wonders of his planet in a way that's both inspiring and unforgettable. And, of course, famous conservatives Paula Kahumbu, who took care of Lions, really respected Attenborough. So, anyways, there's a lot of people on this list and happy birthday, David. Here's to, I don't know, I've seen some kind of depressing headlines where David Attenborough's like, the end is near. That's what he's saying.
No, let's not talk about that. No, man.
So, let's move on.
Hypothetically, if David Attenborough was head of the UK, it would be much better off.
Yep. That would be probably taking care of the environment way better, too.
Right. I think the oldest person in England should be king or queen, right? Just take the oldest person, and when they die, replace them with the next oldest person. It's a more fair thing than just blood relatives. All they do is, run around being spoiled brats.
Now we can go on to this day in history with a simile or metaphor.
Excuse me. All right, this day in history, after I cough up my lung, it going way back to May 8th in the year, the big wheel of time, 1429. Largely due to the efforts of Joan of Arc, English troops ended their siege of the French city of Orleans, which was the military turning point of the 100 Years' War between France and England. Yep, 100 Years' War lasted 112 years, so they misnamed it. 1937 is the English historian Edward Gibbon, who is best known for the book of the History and Decline of the Fall of the Roman Empire, was born in Putney, Surrey. Putney, Surrey. Great name. And 1846, U.S. troops under Zachary Taylor defeated a Mexican force under General Mariano Arista in the Battle of Palo Alto in the first clash of the Mexican-American War. That lasted from 1846 to 1848, which was, we're grabbing land, gimme, 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 gimme. 1964, during the American Civil War, the Union forces of Lieutenant General Ulysses S. Grant engaged the Confederate troops of General Robert E. Lee at Spotsylvania Courthouse, Virginia. Oh yeah, that is Spotsylvania. I know where that is. Big old battle. That might have been the first time they engaged each other, Lee and Grant. For you Civil War buffs. Civil War buffs already know that. 1877, the first Westminster Kennel Club dog show began, attracting large crowds over 4 days. It's one of the oldest continuously running sporting events in the United States, second only to the Kentucky Derby, they say. So yeah, the dog show. It was actually known as the first annual New York Bench Show of Dogs. Ruff. So that was a total bitch. Ha ha ha, excuse me, that's a bad pun. 1884. Harry S. Truman, the 33rd President of the United States, 1945 to 53, was born in Lamar, Missouri. Happy birthday to Harry Truman. the same birthday as David Attenborough, which I haven't gotten to yet. I'm sorry, David Attenborough. I get them mixed up still. 1846, American pharmacist John S. Pemberton developed Coca-Cola, a drink he originally billed as the cure-all tonic. Of course, Coca-Cola, named after the plant it was made from, the coca plant, which makes also cocaine. Although it had cocaine in it, they tell me it was not activated cocaine. But I'm not sure. Whatever. I can't go back in my time machine and check. 1902, Mount Pelée on Martinique erupted, destroying the port of Saint Marie and killing approximately 30,000 people, 15% of the island's population. Yeah, you live by a volcano, and that's a ticking time bomb. 1942, in the Battle of Coral Sea, the USS Lexington became the first U.S. aircraft carrier to be sunk during World War II. Are you sure about that? Oh, aircraft carrier, got it. So that happened in 1942 on this day. 1950, police in Silkeborg, Denmark were alerted to the discovery of a corpse in a bog. It was revealed to be a remarkably preserved bog body and was given the name Poland Man. It's the bog body. Somebody should have a band called Bog Body. That's a great name for a punk band, I think. Maybe I'll do it. 1970, a month after Paul McCartney announced that he had left the Beatles, the British rock group released Let It Be, their last original studio album to hit the record shops. And it hit them really hard. 1980, following the global vaccination program, the WHO officially declared that smallpox was eradicated. But Bobby Kennedy Jr. is going to bring it back. You watch. For centuries, the acute infectious disease was one of the world's most dreaded plagues. Well, I'm sure Bobby Kennedy's working on a new way to bring that back. 1999, Nancy Mace became the first woman to graduate from the Citadel. That's right, that Nancy Mace. That horrible, horrible woman who's now in Congress. A military college in Charleston, South Carolina. So she struck a blow for equal rights, and now she's a fascist. Way to go, moron. Anyway, 2012, American artist Maurice Sendak, who is best known for his illustrated children's book, died at the age of 83. Still can't get over the fact that Nancy Mace is a fascist. What a thing to be. Anyway.
You say anyway, but then you continue talking about it. I love that.
It's just amazing. It's like, oh yeah, equal rights. And it's like, oh yeah, well, she's a disappointment. She just wants to be owned by white people. Oh, way to go. You want to be owned by white men. Way to go, later, Nancy Mace. Betraying your entire gender for a few dollars. Anyway, our featured event in 1945, World War II in Europe ended. Yeah, we said this the other day. I don't know how many times it ended. Surrender. World War II in Europe officially ended at midnight on this day in 1945, although the war in the Pacific continued and Japanese surrendered in September.
Oh no. Not the internet.
Photographer is Paul Gauguin, French painter.
The internet is dying.
Because I'm pronouncing his name. It's June 7th, 18... But he died on May 8th, 1903 at the age of 54. Did I lie? Pages, that might help. Can you still see me, hear me, / whatever?
I can hear you right now. I can see you, but your sentences get interrupted in the middle.
I closed the page.
Okay.
I closed the page. Maybe it'll work better now. All right, we're just going to get to the birthdays today.
All right.
F.A. Hayek, British economist, born in 1899. Born in 1926 on this day, English broadcaster, writer, and naturalist. Also, birthday of Don Rickles. Also born the same day of... If there's anybody that's the opposite of David Attenborough, it's Don Rickles, American comedian and actor. Insult comic. If you know Don Rickles, you know he just he didn't hold back. And he didn't care about being politically correct either. So Don Rickles, David Attenborough, the opposite end of the personality spectrum. Born on the same exact day. 1926. 1940, Rick Nelson was born, American musician and actor, one of the first TV rock stars, probably the first TV rock star. Actually had some chops. He was kind of a pretty boy, but also had some chops. He actually had some decent songs that I could listen to this day. 1961, Bill de Blasio was born, American politician, former mayor of New York. And National Day calendar today, it's National Coconut Cream Pie Day, National Student Nurse Day. If you're a student nurse, it's your day. And National Have a Coke Day, which is, of course, this is the anniversary of the invention of Coca-Cola. So have a Coke and a smile on May 8th, 2025 on Before Coconut Cream Pie.
Mmm. Everyone loves a coconut cream pie. And of course...
That's right, especially in the face. Good for pie in the face.
Yeah.
Best pie in the face. Yeah.
That's everyone's favorite kind of pie. One in the face. So make sure that you have the creamiest of days here.
Yeah. And you know, the ones in the movies weren't actually pies. They were just shaving cream.
No, shaving cream, yeah. Sugar is not good for your skin. Not good at all.
Isn't it? I think it would be great for your skin. Oh well. Probably clogs up your pores, right?
Put all those pies in the oven and get ready for a Thursday.
So I got my video queued up and I'm ready to go.
Okay, then let me see if there's any international days today. There is a UN time of remembrance and reconciliation for those who lost their lives during the Second World War. This is something that the Netherlands does officially on May 4th, but the UN officially marks it on the 8th and 9th of May. On November 22nd, 2004, the UN General Assembly declared May 8th and 9th as a time of remembrance and reconciliation, while recognizing that member states may have individual days of victory, liberation, and commemoration. They invited all member states, organizations of the United Nations system, and non-governmental organizations to observe annually all of those who may have lost their lives and were victims of the Second World War. So, remember, there's people who died out there to make sure that we're at peace. So let's stop starting wars, because it makes it feel like all those people who died for nothing. This has been Alison from the Netherlands and Roger from the East Coast of the U.S. as we tie off another Thursday 13. I hope you learned a lot about the Cleveland Browns and why they suck as a team.
Oh, and the ugliest uniform. Like, no logo on their helmets either. It's like, can't you just get a logo? Yeah.
Just awful,
just plain brown helmets.
Exactly.
My favorite was when they went from brown to orange just to be different. That was pretty cool. Anyway. Because orange is the closest color to brown. It is. Anyway.
Yeah, that is true. And it's not a terrible uniform, but it could be better.
Yeah.
Could be better, and why they chose that, we may never know.
They're called the Browns after the original owner, by the way, Paul Brown.
Oh, okay.
The only reason they're called
some guy was full of himself. Let's name it after me. I'm amazing, so we should name it after me.
They're still owned, right? They're not owned by the Brown family anymore, right? Because they sold it. They could change their name. They're owned by. The Browns own the Cincinnati Bengals.
They might want to move out of Cleveland too. Maybe the whole thing is just bad luck.
Yeah. They did move. They moved to Baltimore, remember?
Oh, right. Yeah. We talked about that.
Yeah. Anyways,
let's finish up the show. We'll see you guys for Friday's news dump, which we'll talk and yap even longer. Hope tomorrow and cover all the news before the weekend, so you don't have to worry about it. So make sure you're subscribed to the Ali and Ron channel and have that notification bell clicked and turned on so you get notified when we live the video. And now it is time for our short but sweet Attenborough mic drop moment.
This is called a teddy bear.
Shortest one I can find.
Because
he will talk forever about something.
On it. But don't be deceived by the name. There is nothing cuddly about this particular teddy bear. In fact,
it'll be a very expensive medical bill
in the desert, and I wouldn't dream of putting my hand anywhere near it without proper protection.
It's a hell of a dream.
Here we go. And there, put the gloves on. Oh wow!
This could happen. Ow!
Oh, it sticks to
It's
you.
going to happen even with this glove
I've
on.
had those stick
One
to
of them
me.
has just gone through. I can feel it.
Climbing
It's quite painful.
Climbing mountains in the Arizona desert. They're everywhere.
Oh, wow.
Spine bastards stick to you.
A render of what it looks like when it gets stuck in you.
Glass, sharp enough to pierce flesh.
That's pretty cool.
And they're covered.
Oh yeah, they have the barbs.
backward-pointing
That's where they get
barbs.
stuck.
So getting them
Barbs
out,
that
even with a
stick
pair
under
of
your
pliers,
skin.
is quite hard. This is not pleasant.
You got to break them
at
off.
all. It won't come off.
How do you get it off your
without.
hand?
Oh, look at that. It's hard to
Very
imagine
sticky.
a more aggressive defense than this.
Imagine those gloves got to be
And it
thick.
makes both
He should have put gloves on his other hand too.
virtually invulnerable.
I would be the idiot to
They
be
only
like,
had to
oh, I
write
better
that
take that off with my ungloved hand. In my actual hand.
Yeah. Oh
There we
man,
go.
poor.
Happy birthday, David Attenborough.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.